Yo.
What's good? What's good?
Dude, Bitcoin over 90K.
The comeback, baby.
Comeback. I mean, we always called it. It's just us today hanging out, which will be kind of nice. Adam is getting a much needed vacation. Kai is a absolute grinder.
There is a lot of winding down in this industry right now. It's pretty crazy.
What do you mean winding down?
People leaving, just people literally not coming back. Like one of the most crypto native podcasts, Steady Lads, they winded down. This was like their last week.
Oh, what? Really?
Like 2 years in a row. Yeah, there's just like a lot of people that are, some of them are going to like go do like lifestyle advice. One of them's like, they're all like picking up random hobbies. It's like total bear market vibes. Pretty crazy.
Wow, dude.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're leaving? I mean, do you think it's because everyone's going broke now because the market's just been so bad?
Is the market that bad?
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like because everyone was so overweight altcoins at the start of the Trump presidency that everyone just got completely wiped out.
Yeah, specifically ETH and maybe meme coins, but I think a lot of it's just more on like the fulfillment side. You know, everyone's been here for like 5, 6, 7, 8 years at this point, if you've been in crypto for a while. And it is kind of like, you know, a bit just like annoying to not see any kind of breakout products cycle after cycle and just kind of go through the motions. And then when you have something like Ethereum that's down, you know, I think like the S&P outperformed Ethereum. It's just not a good look. So if you're not making any money and you kind of lose faith in maybe the ethos of what we're really doing here, then there's not really much of a reason to stay. So I think that a lot of people are really going through that at the moment.
And in I guess if you've been here now, if you're heading into your third cycle, this will be heading into my fourth cycle, which is kind of crazy. You've either made a bunch of money or you've lost your ass a bunch of times. And once you've lost your ass a bunch of times, and this is speaking from personal experience, it is quite difficult to get yourself up to, go about this a fourth time or a third time or a fourth time or even a fifth time. Right. But to me, the opportunity is still insane. Like,
what other choice do you have at that point? Like, you just keep going, baby. Just keep showing up every day.
That's kind of how I see it. I mean, recently losing 6 figures again for like the third or fourth time in this industry, like it hurts, but it comes in all different types of ways, and those wins generally will always kind of outperform what's happening. But the opportunity is just so massive. I mean, we're literally on the fringe and the heels of literally the moment we've been waiting for 10 years since we joined, which is regulatory certainty.
Time to be in crypto ever. I mean, in terms of even though product development is slow, there's more products on the market today than ever before. More companies going public than ever before. More just general Bitcoin adoption than ever before. And sure, like maybe it hasn't all trickled down into the rest of the ecosystem, but I mean, Ethereum has a valid competitor, which I think is great for the industry, for both of them. If Ethereum never had a Solana to compete with, Ethereum would have never evolved to what it's going to be. You know what I mean? It wouldn't bring out like the strength that it will have. And that competition is good for Solana as well. So we get to push these products and these platforms to the best of their abilities, and the market will decide what it's going to value. But this is the most exciting time to be in crypto ever. I couldn't imagine like leaving, and especially leaving somewhere around where we are now.
What do you think about Vitalik's recent post about the change of swapping out the EVM to Risk V? Did you see this?
Yeah, I saw that. I wish he would just really kind of get his messaging down better and just kind of speak to the community the way that they kind of want to be spoken to. He always makes these like really vague, ambitious kind of generalizations of where Ethereum's going, but he doesn't offer anything direct, and he doesn't kind of give any legitimate timelines or anything like that. It's honestly like Vitalik's like a slop AI, just like spewing all over the timeline, like time after time. It's kind of crazy.
I had never even heard of this Risk V, but I thought it was kind of radical, right? The idea of you're literally swapping out the EVM for a new virtual machine. Although I was doing some research, and from what I could find, it would be backwards compatible. And from the developer side of things, I guess not much would change. It's just how it has to do something with like how the code then is implemented on the back end. There's some sort of like change, but it says from the developer experience, it actually doesn't change too much. But it says that this can increase the efficiency of the layer one from a 50 to 100x is the claim. But I also saw on the other side of it that this is something that would take 3 to 5 years to implement. Right?
Of course.
It's just very typical. It's very typical Ethereum.
It's always like the optics too. Like it seems like a completely radical change out of left field that no one necessarily asked for. And then there's just Vitalik, like, here's what we're going to do now. And I think that he's just totally kind of just misguided on what he wants Ethereum to be, what the community wants Ethereum to be, what maybe the Ethereum Foundation wants Ethereum to be. That it doesn't seem like there's any sort of alignment. So even though I do continue to be like the last Ethereum bull standing, it does seem like they have a lot of internal work that they need to be doing that I thought maybe they'd be a little bit further on.
Well, they did just get new leadership for the foundation.
They just kind of like shuffled people around.
Yeah, it seemed like they were going a little bit more for like the community oriented, because it felt like the Ethereum Foundation for a long time, you had no idea who was on the foundation. Even this last round before they started making some changes, they posted all the people on the Ethereum Foundation. I was like, I've never heard of any of these people. Like, who are these? There's nobody. This is nobody that's ever on the timeline. This is like the high castle cabal.
Right. And I mean, we don't need everyone to be from crypto Twitter or just like the kind of mainstream crypto industry, but a few familiar faces definitely doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah. I mean, we saw this with OpenSea recently. Maybe we'll get into that they hired a few crypto Twitter native people. It seems like they're starting to kind of turn things around, but I do want to go into that next. But here on this post, Vitalik, he says, the post proposes a radical idea for the future of Ethereum execution layer, one that is equally as ambitious as the Beam chain effort, which I believe that's the privacy layer, if I remember correctly. effort is for its consensus layer. It aims to greatly improve the efficiency of the Ethereum execution layer, resolving one of their primary scaling bottlenecks and greatly improve the execution layer's simplicity. The idea is to replace the EVM with RISC-V, so RISC-V, as the virtual machine language that smart contracts are written in. He says that there's some important clarifications. The concepts of accounts cross contract call storage would stay exactly the same. I expect most developers would keep writing smart contracts in Solidity or Viper, and that the old style EVM contracts will continue to work and will be fully two-way interoperable with this new style. And he goes on to say, what does it do? The stability of the data availability sampling and his storage protocols. So it just continues to go into a little bit more dev speak. But from what some of the people were saying is that it has to do something with like increasing the block times from 2 minutes to, I think it was like 3 seconds, something like that, which even I think is still higher than Solana is. I think Solana's like isn't it like 2 seconds or 1 second?
Yeah, and then you'll have like, and it'll be like semi 1 second finality with Fire Dancer. And I think everyone expects, maybe this is a bad take, but I think everyone expects the Ethereum Foundation to continue developing Ethereum in some type of way. And honestly, I don't really think that most people care at all, like what that is. They as long as it functions to some extent and it continues to develop. But I think that they need to really work on their messaging and who like their end user is. Like people are clearly, we're in like the application era now. It would be nice to hear him talk about how he wants more usable applications on chain. And I really wish that they would just kind of like really lean into their decentralization, like Meta, and just, you know, really hone in on who that end user is that's going to need to get a transaction through at all costs. And I think that that's really like Ethereum's best value proposition, is kind of catering to these Wall Street legacy banks, and just, you know, with the decentralization factor and the allotment of a transaction always being able to get through, even if it costs 10x what the current gas rate is or whatever it would be, you can guarantee that that transaction is going to go through. And I think that that's like Ethereum's biggest value proposition. So I think that they should just lean into their messaging, and they really need to work on their application layer.
Yeah, man. Value accrual seems to be most important. They tried to sidestep it for a long time to continue to do the development, and the community is not happy. Although today Ethereum is now at 1,700 while Bitcoin is at 90,000. I don't know if you saw this, but I think it's like there's the ETH ratio is down to its 2016 low. Like that is insane. Literally retraced everything from the ICO era, from the NFT era, from the DeFi era. And Solana, really, dude, you got to do your laps, man. You're totally right that Ethereum was cooked many years ago, and that now it's.
Bear with me, I'm a little bit sick, so just trying to
yeah, you're good.
Through. But I mean, it's even worse than it actually seems, because it's not inflation adjusted. So $1,700 Ethereum today is much lower than $1,700 Ethereum in 2019. You know what I mean? So even like just with the face value optics, it's much worse than it looks beneath the hood, which is crazy.
Woo, man, dude. Yeah, man.
But, I mean, that's the stage for the comeback. I would never bet against Vitalik. I would never bet against Ethereum. I mean, they have the biggest global distributed network of developers and community in the entire world. So
the internet world computer continues to grow. L2s are going to continue to pop up. Eventually, at some point, you think the all L1 trade will die off. Who knows if that ever does? But once that does, then everything goes to Ethereum L2. Kind of continuing with the OpenSea stuff. So recently, they hired Adam Hollander, who I believe was like a big ape coin. He was like a big ape guy for a while. They hired him as the CMO of the company, and he's been popping up in my feed a lot more. And just hiring somebody like this is on kind of the heels of the Ethereum Foundation conversation, that you get somebody from crypto Twitter who, you know, is relatable, people understand, they're familiar with. I mean, you can even say Adam and myself are in the same position of joining Emblem, right? It's just like you're users of the product, and eventually you start working for the company, and it allows people to trust it a little bit more. And while OpenSea has done this in the last few weeks, they've also come out and pushed a handful of big updates, like the cross-chain mint was kind of cool. They're now supporting Shadows, which is Yuga Labs NFT bridge of sorts. So coming in and competing with a competitive emblem product, finally something on the market. And now they have this kind of wallet switching as well, which is something Magic Eden's had for years at this point. But what do you think about OpenSea potentially making this comeback? I mean, these are kind of basic things, but it does seem like they're starting to lean in the right direction. Can they, basically do a better Ethereum foundation and mark the comeback with, being more community oriented, listening, and obviously hiring within the community?
Yeah. And these hires are kind of invaluable. Like, does Adam Hollander, does he develop anything? Is he like actually pushing code, or is he just probably more of their marketing arm, right?
He's just marketing, yeah.
But he's made like 100x difference within like the month that he's been compared to all the developers over the past year. And so sometimes these key hires that if you're sitting in a boardroom don't really seem like they're going to move the needle. They're the ones that move the needle the most, because that's kind of your messaging and how your product is viewed from the community and this and that. So sometimes these key hires actually make all the difference. I don't know what their strategy has been over the last couple of years. It is a decent strategy if you have plenty of VC funding just to kind of outlast your opponents. Everyone's burning cash and they're just sitting there not shipping updates, but not losing money, not spending a ton of money, and just kind of waiting for the market to dry up. And then maybe that's when they attack, and maybe that's what they're doing here. Maybe it was all planned, maybe it wasn't, but it seems like they're finally heading in the right direction. And a key hire like that can really kind of change the game for just internal morale and how your product is viewed from the outside in.
Yeah, I completely agree. I still think OpenSea has some more.
You're the last fan standing for OpenSea.
I am. I was one of my predictions was that they were going to be one of the big innovators of the year. They're kind of leaning the direction.
Which was a crazy prediction, to be honest. That
crazy, was dude. Everyone was like, "You were insane," but to me, they still own Seaport, and they did just announce, or they did just start offering Solana NFT support, which seems really late, but better late than never. I'm still expecting something much bigger to come out. They're now competing with Magic Eden. Magic Eden's going all in on the chain abstraction through the fungible token layer, right? Be able to buy any NFT with any fungible token or even USD, right? And so that's where the chain abstraction's happening. OpenSea just announced that they are, or that you can mint any NFT inside of any cryptocurrency. I just think that something else is coming. I don't know exactly what it is, but they've got a ton of developers and a ton of money. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It's crazy how like just valuations and opportunities change. I mean, I think Coinbase spent $1 billion to develop their non-existent NFT marketplace. What if they just would have bought OpenSea for, they were an early investor, but what if they would have spent that $1 billion acquiring OpenSea, and then they could have had the number one NFT marketplace in the industry, the number one kind of liquid token exchange in the industry, would have done so much for their product stack. But instead, they burned $1 billion. They don't have an NFT marketplace. It seemed like OpenSea was scrambling for whatever they were scrambling for. But just kind of crazy how small moments like that can have such a profound impact on, the trajectory of the industry.
Yeah, I completely agree. And speaking of large valuations, this morning, Arch announced their second raise, their Series A raise. They just added another 13 million. I believe their first round was 9 million. So this now puts them up at a $200 million valuation, with mainnet coming in June. I think the end of June. So you still have a few months. Pantera is leading it. That's a pretty large crypto firm. So I think one of the OGs as well.
Yeah, one of the oldest.
Yeah, they started in 2014. So this is the article that I saw in Fortune. Right, this is that the value The value or the round values Arch at 200 million. They basically are an SVM based company that uses off-chain verification network to basically perform, I guess, on-chain transactions for Bitcoin. It's supposed to make it much more performant, and it's been something that has been, quietly anticipated for at least a year now. I think they were originally supposed to launch in January, February. It's been pushed back 6 months to June. Maybe that was purposely done to allow this raise to happen, or maybe Pantera is just doubling down or just kind of leading because they see this as the next opportunity after the kind of L2 hype or the Bitcoin L2 hype has faded, and the results have been, I guess, mixed in this area.
And what's the play here? Is it for Pantera? Is it so that they can kind of build, applications on this Arch network layer 2? Because they're not going to have a token, as far as I know. Their transaction fees aren't going to reach anywhere near what their valuation would kind of assume that they would. So what's the playbook for Pantera investing here?
I think they just see it as a Bitcoin infrastructure play, I would suppose. So what Arch has done really well is that they've attracted a lot of developers. A lot of teams have moved over to Arch. Also, I think it wouldn't be right to say that a lot of people who moved over to Arch got tired of waiting and also moved over to ICP.
Right.
So you kind of have this three-way battle, at least from what I'm seeing right now, for this, I guess you'd say, the execution layer of fungible or I guess the execution layer for development, or apps, the app layer. On Bitcoin, you have Arch, then you have ICP and people building over in that ecosystem. And then you have Near kind of as a star course where some people are also kind of utilizing. Obviously, people could use Lit as well, which we do, which is also kind of in that other area. I would say Emblem is kind of in a similar position, but we focus on NFTs instead. So maybe Pantera maybe they see the vision. They saw the users. I mean, the testnet numbers were quite high. But again, I know a lot of teams like Liquidium, who was using Arch, anticipated, ended up going over to ICP, and a handful of other teams. I think with Arch, one of their leading narratives is that they're going to support OG runes, and the community has made it basically put their line in the sand that says if there's no protocol that's going to support runes, layer 1 runes, and they're not going to support this. They're not the the community is not interested in building on new fungible token standards. They want runes. They want these networks to support runes. And Arch seems to be, I guess, the most chain abstracted way, because apparently you don't have to deposit. You just basically plug in your Xverse wallet and it's supposed to do everything automatically. Where if that's the case, then I think you have a huge advantage on everything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just interesting to see. It just seems like they invest here so that they can get to the second layer of products. I don't see how they can kind of have any equity value that's meaningful compared to their investment here. But the things that can be built on top of Arch, I think that's kind of the biggest play from their standpoint.
The application layer of Bitcoin. How valuable can that be?
Extremely.
You think so?
The application layer of Bitcoin? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's massive. I think that's like the biggest market available. I think that's where Agent Hustle will really shine. That'll be part of the application layer on top of Bitcoin. I think all the Bitcoin DeFi. I mean, I think that Bitcoin's the best money in the world. So I think the financial services that surround the best money in the world is a huge industry. So I think massive, massive market there. Do you think differently?
I think it could be massive. How big? I don't really know. I think it's because it's still not quite clear, what the infrastructure of the application layer is. Is it going to be Arch? Is it going to be ICP? Is it going to be Cat VM, which now seems like OpCat is now second to Cat or to OpCTV, seems to be.
Right.
I think I still speculate a little bit that if Opcat could have been pushed through, then right, I think more teams would be investing there. Maybe that's why they had to sell the Wizards to extend their runway to ensure that they are a company when that time does happen, because they have a lot of superstars on the team. But I guess that's kind of where the bet is. Unfortunately, the Bitcoin ecosystem takes much longer to scale, right? So this could be another few years before we have kind of certainty on where that application layer is and who's going to be building. But I like the Arch guys. I've met them in person. I think trading runes there is kind of something that we as an Emblem team have kind of bet on. Was one of the ideas where by Q3, when we launched keys, that they will have this figured out at some point. And it seems like that might be the direction. Bob is announcing that there's going to be rune support or OG rune support inside of ICP. From June to RTGE, which is in September, you'll have 3 months or so of trading for runes on Arch to see if that's, equitable. You have people in the Cardano ecosystem and near. And so it does seem like these answers maybe come soon, at least what the community wants. But who actually wins is a little bit of a question.
Facts.
But you look here on Magic Eden, Taproot Wizards are under mint. Bitcoin puppets are down. It's a kind of cool graphic that they added here. Node monkeys. So the whole NFT ecosystem's gotten slaughtered. Also, I guess it'd be fair to say, maybe we'll cover this next, that the homies over at Oil have been getting a lot of attention with their Alkanes meta protocol. Have you been following this at all?
No, it just keeps on popping up on my timeline. So not super in the weeds, but it's definitely getting some traction, huh?
So it's a meta protocol. This is something Hath has been working with them for like a year at this point in time. I've met Alex, who's the founder, for a while. I believe Domo was an investor in Oil. They were building a wallet. Ultimately, they ended up building a protocol called Alkanes. And I'm going to be completely honest. Every time I try to read about it, or anytime Judo, who I've talked with on a call, anytime he's tried to explain it to me, I get completely lost because he talks like 100 miles per hour on what it is. But essentially, it's like it's some sort of like smart contract programmable meta protocol. And some of the mints have been doing really well over the last few days. And you see some of these teams like LIFO, who's a big Bitcoin dev, added support for Alkanes. And there's just like some other mints that are happening. And I think it's kind of going through these early stages that you see with these other protocols, meta protocols happening, where people are minting, people are making some money, people are having fun. And then with all of these, it always comes back to the default of, are there actually any developers building, right? This is the issue with counterparties. There's no devs building any applications on top of it. This is the issue with Track and with Tap. There's no devs building any applications on top of it. And this is why kind of Runes is winning, is people are building applications on top of it. It's the same with Ordinals. This is why Ordinals kind of won as the NFT standard, is people are building applications on top of it and using it. So they're going to have to attract developers to kind of come and build whatever it is on top of it. And that, I would say that period of time will probably come, 3 to 6 months from now, once the traders get exhausted from minting meme coins and trading and kind of talking about it, and they kind of wait around to see what's next. This seems to happen continuously. So I do wish them the best, and I hope that they win, because I think they're all pretty cool. But it's tough building meta protocols in this space, because it's just limited amount of opportunity. And also, I don't think that they support any of the OG ordinals or runes. I think it's like a whole different standard, if I understand that correctly. I could be wrong.
That makes sense. And I think that there is that kind of meta protocol fatigue where people are happy with the options that already exist on the market. So to try and kind of convince users to go somewhere new that's not even fully released and things like that at this point in time, I think people are tired of it. But if you zoom out a bit and you just look at the Bitcoin ecosystem development for, you know, the application layer, it's probably like one of the most highly developed aspects of the entire industry. I mean, there's actual real progress being made there. You only need one breakthrough to kind of change the narrative here and open up like the floodgates to one of the biggest potential target markets that would exist in crypto. Unlocking the Bitcoin ecosystem is the holy grail. So one breakthrough can really change the whole narrative here. That goes with all ecosystems, but especially with Bitcoin, because it's basically going from 0 to 1. And that's like where your biggest opportunity would be.
So it seems the protocol token is called Diesel. It says Diesel is the first example of the Bitcoin layer 1 smart contract asset built on alkanes, often referred to as, or maybe this is just the first token, often referred to as the first alkanization of crude oil. Its design mirrors the Bitcoin block reward schedule and demonstrates how flexible alkanes is for creating custom asset distributions on Bitcoin. So I go through up to the top. It says, what is alkanes? Alkanes implements a full smart contract environment on Bitcoin L1. Alkanes smart contracts are developed in Rust, compiled in WebAssembly, and are deployed as gzipped WASM files through the witness reveal payloads, similar to ordinal inscriptions. One final kind of note here. The smart contract methods are executed through proto-runes protocol messages encoded in op return outputs, which are structured similar to runestone. And something about the data from method calls is stored in the field within a runestone, which enables the embedded of proto-stone contract execution messages without disrupting the base runes protocol. Do you understand all of that?
Yeah, we're locked in, baby.
So essentially my understanding is like it's kind of similar to runes. They use the similar kind of runestone method where it's like the first rune within an asset being issued has kind of what carries all the information for the overall token design. Some of the other stuff's a little bit lost on me, I'm gonna be completely honest here, but I hope some other people, they also use MetaShrew, which I remember we talked with Emblem. We talked with them. It had to be a year and a half ago about MetaShrew and seeing if we could use MetaShrew for our Bitcoin products. So they've completely built everything in-house, from smart contracts to the MetaShrew. I think they raised $3 million 2 years ago during kind of the hype of ordinals when it first started taking off. So they're definitely well funded. Now it seems like they finally have a little bit of a community forming, and we'll see from there in terms of the Bitcoin ecosystem.
What happened with all those layer 2s that just raised money and then just maybe deleted other accounts? It's been about a year, maybe a year and a half since they've raised. Haven't seen one of them hit the market. What happened?
Yeah, man. So what was there? There was Bob, which they were deep 50s. I think they have like 60 something team members. When I asked them, they were at the ETH Denver conference. You have Merlin, who seems to be focusing more on fungible tokens, because I hopped on a call with them recently to ask them about their grant program for builders, and it seems like they've sunsetted that, which generally is not a good sign. And then you have Stacks, which is just Stacks being Stacks. They had spent their last year on this upgrade where the protocol becomes much more compact as a Bitcoin L2, where it's like they issue, I think it's like a new block in Stacks protocol every few seconds. And then every Bitcoin block between all those transactions in between is basically, they use, it's like the DA for the Stacks protocol in some capacity. And that was that whole upgrade was meant to improve and attract people for their SBTC, where it's like, hey, this is the most secure synthetic Bitcoin protocol because it uses Bitcoin as a finality of some sort. Although I don't think it really took off as much as people like say. Maybe I'll have to pull up the stats here in a second. And then I think I'm missing one other one. So you had Merlin, Bob, Stacks, and then I guess Arch, I guess, is kind of the other one, right? It's not completely an L2, but I've started to come to terms where lose the technical jargon for most of the shit. Like it doesn't really matter. It's all grouped as the same thing.
Big fact. Just interesting. I don't even hear about so many. There was like 20 Bitcoin layer 2s. It was a huge meta. Haven't seen really one of them hit the market. Merlin's still kind of chugging along, but just another week in crypto.
Yeah, man. People tend to forget about a lot of the stuff. Moving over, I do want to cover some AI stuff now.
Yes, sir.
Moving over. So the AI market is up pretty significantly. It's gone from, I think, was it down in the 4 billion range like a month ago. Now it's up to almost 7 billion, 6.88 billion. Solana still edging out Ethereum. 2.5 billion to 2.28 billion. Fartcoin is 1 billion or 1.1 billion. It's now, Fartcoin is essentially become the Doge of the, I guess, on-chain markets, where it's kind of the leading indicator. People have realized that their hedge is actually in the Fartcoin and not in Bitcoin per se.
Hilarious.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to see. Look at Tensor, dudes. Agent Hustle still hanging out in the mind share, number 15 overall agents, up to a $1.8 billion. We saw like a pretty good price increase over the weekend. There was a token called Dark Research that was trending. I'm going to get into prompt and virtuals. Virtual seems to be having a bad time pretty recently. And Banker still hanging in there. The DeFi AI market.
The 1 and 2 and 3. That looks pretty good. That's like a pretty solid structural lineup for what the big 3 in the DeFi AI category are. So it's actually, and Griffin right there too. Wow. So yeah, actually pretty good display of like the best products on the market currently right there. Top 5.
Yeah, Griffin is doing pretty well. I need to look into seeing why the market cap is up, or it's just, suppressed prices generally is, I think, a lot of this. There was somebody in our chat the other day was like, why is Tensor up 50%? And I was like, I don't know, because it's been literally below $1 million for so long. Eventually there's like no sellers. I mean, the liquidity for Tensorium is quite low. Like the volume was 30,000 yesterday. It was up to 100,000. But now it just sits there kind of at 1.8 million because there's no more sellers. It feels like it's just net new buyers coming in and kind of finding the protocol itself. So Wayfinder, the founder of Wayfinder, I do want to say this as well. I did reach out to the founder of Wayfinder, the founder of Griffin, the founder of Banker to come on the show, and none of them responded to me. So I'm going to put that out there.
Damn.
Yeah. Just leaving me on red, dude. Like these people, I don't know what it is. Once VC funding gets in the way, people just get extremely territorial. Although I don't think Banker is VC funded, but he doesn't seem to respond to anything. He does like my posts, but anytime I message him or respond,
that's pretty funny.
Nothing. Yeah, kind of annoying, but hey, it is what it is. So Wayfinder put out a timeline. Let me just fix this real quick. So they put out their timeline yesterday. The founder did. It's delivering on priorities through July. This is laid out by their engineering team. So Wayfinder currently sits at a $50 million market cap, tied with Hayanon around for same prices. That's if you're measuring by the token. I'm really interested to see what like the active users are for these. We just passed actually 1,000 active users last week, which is pretty good. Double month over month from launch to month 2. I'd be curious to see how many people are using this kind of stuff, although I highly doubt they would ever release that. So some of the project timeline, so late April through May, looks like it says scalability, reliable wallet balances, UI UX improvements. In June of 2025, it looks like they're starting to dive into their API business, says they're going to roll out Wayfinder Toolkit API to a limited set of testers. They want to have a fiat on-ramp and trending use cases and recommendation, new path creations. It says that in June will be their alpha release. So this means, I guess, to the public finally. And then in July, they want autonomous agent rolled out in limited capacity. path features completions, and then their API is more widely available. Chris, what do you think about kind of the trajectory of Wayfinder and kind of, I guess now assessing it? What is it, 2 weeks since their TGE? What's your overall thought about it?
I haven't seen one post about Wayfinder in like over a week. I saw a million posts leading up to their TGE. Once you kind of burn people on like an airdrop, it actually kind of does more harm than good for your product. Like a lot of those people maybe never touch that product ever again. Just leaves a bad taste in the community's mouth. But to see their development, I think it's great. I think the lineup that we have, the big four, Griffin, Wayfinder, Banker, Agent Hustle, there's going to be like more than one leader. They're going to be used for different things. They're going to find kind of strengths in their niches and have kind of killer features for each one of them. So I kind of expect them all to kind of grow in tandem at different rates, but grow together. And I think they're kind of in the lead, but there's a lot of pressure to be in the lead in terms of, is your development pace going to be on point? Are people actually going to be using the product? We're already pretty far ahead in just terms of like the product development stages where we found what users like to use on Agent Hustle. No one knows what they like to use on Wayfinder yet. Banker has some pretty strong product feedback where, they're having a lot of success with a couple features. Wayfinder still needs to find that niche that they're really going to fulfill. But, Banker and Agent Hustle kind of already passed that phase and moving on to the next. So Agent Hustle pushing over 1,000 users last week. And then that's all obviously super organic growth, no fluffing the numbers or anything like that. And it just kind of hits that like hyper growth stage following where, word of mouth just really starts to penetrate the psyche of the community. And, once it's kind of recognized as a trusted platform, you're going to see just kind of transaction amounts go up and users kind of get on board. And that's when he's kind of really going to start to shine. So I think in general, it's a good time to get in the DeFi AI space. And I mean, there's going to be more than one winner. And so you have a pretty good shot at picking a strong winner if you pick one of the top ones now.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kalos, who's one of the co-founders of Parallel, which is the parent company to Wayfinder, says, whatever thesis you have around AI times crypto, your AI agents will need tools to carry out complicated transactions and contract interaction creation. This is exactly what the Wayfinder API does. Although the API Wayfinder API is not live and will not be for another 2 months. I'm starting to see is like, maybe it's just because I'm now a builder and I've been in this, been doing this now for almost 3 years, is you can start to see when people are behind, but they know the thesis of what's coming, right? Like this is not like a call out or anything, because I also do this as well, where you kind of see what the next trend is for whatever sector you're in, but you realize that your development team is either behind or you're not positioned correctly to be there. So you start doing these like tweets of, hey, this feature is better. But then when the people actually look to use it, it's not available at all. Right. I think this is like the Magic Eden thing, right? Where the founder came out like a month ago and said that wait until you see, or Magic Eden's building the best AI companion. And then he ended up deleting it like that same day. Right. And it was just like, oh, fuck, we're kind of out of position right now, but we need to ensure our investors or community and token holders that, there's some sort of product.
Yeah, I agree there. What do you think is the best position DeFi AI platform other than Agent Hustle? Would you be putting dollars to work, or where would you place your bets?
I would probably invest in Hand-On, to be honest. I think Danielle's doing a good job. It's a little bit more advanced. It's catered a little bit more towards the advanced users than per se like my trading style, but they're building directionally, at least from what I've seen, in the same. I think they have pretty much the same vision that we do, which is this AI assistant that talks with you, can help you develop, but also has these advanced trading things like conditional based trading and automated. They're literally the only team I've seen even mention something like that. He obviously has the DeFi kind of skills. to do it. But I would say I haven't been able to use Wayfinder either, right? Because they have this like stupid beta thing on it, which is annoying. But I think I like the direction of Hayanon the most out of all of them. I would say probably close second is Banker. I'm just not a crazy social kind of trader.
Right.
Maybe if I had like a much smaller Twitter account, or if I was using a burner, I would use those kind of features. But as somebody who has like a ton of social capital, I would not want to burn it all just publicly trading on the timeline.
Right. It's more of a novelty than like an actual usable, like regular feature. A lot of these people, when they launch tokens, they don't want anyone to know that they launched the token, right? Let alone tell everyone that it was them. It's kind of like the opposite of what people are looking for a lot of the time. So I agree there. I like how you put it before, where Agent Hustle is probably like the most highly developed AI in the DeFi AI category. Probably has like the strongest knowledge graph. Obviously, the persistent memory is the highest quality, and just kind of the general flow of his AI is probably stronger than any other current project in the industry. And then you're probably right that DeFi or Hayanon has like the strongest DeFi element of the DeFi AI of all of the projects on the market right now. So coming at the same problem from two different kind of ways and with a similar end goal, but just the build out and the strategy to roll all the different features out is a little bit different. So I do think that those are the two strongest in the market, and they're coming at the same vision, just from two different endpoints.
What do you think about kind of the evolving business models that are happening? I'll pull this back up on the stream, right? We're going to be releasing a new business model here probably next month or so. We've gone back and forth on our internal conversations many times on what's the right way. You see Wayfinder, they announced their pro plan, which is, I believe it looks like 100 or 200 prompts. Is it daily? Yeah. So it unlocks 10 times higher message limit. So and if the free is 20 messages, then I guess this is 200 messages a month for $20 a month, access to the contract agent, and you get some API tooling. Banker also has, the Banker Club, which I believe is also, I think, $20 a month for, but you pay in Banker, I believe. And then you have Griffin's business model, which is you just pay 2 Sol and it opens up the wallet. And then I think that's it, at least from the experience that I've used with it so far. So it seems like the DeFi AI kind of sector is starting to mimic, what is traditional with these AI services. But $20, man, seems quite low, at least from what I'm seeing on our expenditure for inferences. But also you see things like, look at Grok with Twitter. It's now you have to pay $40 a month for the premium services. OpenAI has like $200 to $500 services per month for different types of agents. Seems like a lot of these companies are, using their token in a different way than just token gating, which I actually thought was going to be the way, but it seems to be that the token should be used for something else. So what's your thoughts on just the evolving business models in the DeFi AI space?
Yeah, I think it's smart to kind of mimic what already exists. And people already pay these monthly subscriptions to these AI platforms, the interfaces they're already familiar with. So I think just like kind of mimicking and mirroring what already exists is kind of a net win for just the general trajectory of the space. For $18 a month, this is like, something like Wayfinder, if it is functional. I mean, that's like a really actionable $18 a month. There's so many products that I've used over the years that cost hundreds of dollars, but they're not really actionable. They're more in like theorized, or they're waiting or something like that. But something like a full-fledged AI platform that's like kind of an all-in-one product is pretty solid for $18 a month. And obviously you can cancel kind of whenever you'd like. So just like the trial and error and the accessibility that you get for just like $18 a month is pretty solid. I think that these are going, obviously in my opinion, I think these are going to be like the biggest applications in crypto. And I think you're just going to be batting with huge amounts of users. So I think like having a low accessible price that can get a solid product in the hands of a lot of people is kind of the right strategy. So I'm pretty excited that it's going this direction.
Yeah, it is looking to be pretty good. So Banker recently announced buy sell swap transfer on Solana. So it looks like they opened up their Solana bridge so that you can go ahead and swap. And this, I think, is only available to the Banker Club members. If I remember correctly, the Banker Club was 1,000 membership passes, or maybe it was just the first 1,000 had some sort of cool graphic to it. Really, to me, seems Banker still seems to be one of the better or more attractive communities on base so far. Obviously, the whole Zora thing happened, which I think is rubbing some people the wrong way. We'll see after their TGE happens, but Banker is kind of coalescing around base and the base community moving forward here. So made the move to Solana seems like a no-brainer. For us, I've talked about this a long time, a few times already, that I'm glad we started with Solana because it is a lot more difficult to build on Solana than it is to build the EVM. And some of these conversations I've had with other individuals that approach us about using their services, they're all starting with EVM. So it's going to be more of kind of plug and play. We even saw recently that the LIT protocol came out with Vincent, which is their kind of AI tooling, which they even, let me see if I can pull it up here. They even, so with Vincent, they even had a example use case where you can, I think it was DCA on base. So props to them. I know their TGE is coming up in the next month or two. So it'll be exciting to see where they go for them or for there. But Vincent, this Vincent product it's a little bit more structural to LIT, but I've seen a handful of other teams that have reached out to me kind of the same idea where it's like, we're building these DeFi AI services. Go ahead and partner with us. And, so you don't have to kind of build this stuff out. And it seems like they're all kind of starting on EVM because it's a lot easier. So from a strategy standpoint, makes me a little bit more excited. Moving over to Griffin, I scroll through their Twitter every once in a while, every few days. They don't post as often, or maybe once per day, just talking about kind of simple steps. It doesn't feel like there's much community there anymore. Although the product is great, I don't know what the issue is. Maybe it was people were initially burned because something about coffee. I think it was like you stake your Griffin and got coffee or something like that.
Right.
People were upset, or maybe it was just like the price went up so high and came down so much that so many people lost their ass. And it's because the DeFi space is so small, just everyone was so burned by it, they never came back around it. But the price is up. It's up to 36 million. I mean, it was at 600 million at one point, which is kind of crazy, or 650 mil at some point. Have you heard much about Griffin recently, or have you gone and browsed through the platform?
Yeah, I was on the platform like a week ago. I don't really like the layout too much, to be honest, but I was experimenting with it a little bit. It just doesn't seem very crypto native, and then it also doesn't really seem like very Web 2 native. So you're kind of like missing two major user buckets, and so I don't know like who they're mostly catering towards. You know what I mean? You either have to go to crypto route or you have to go the Web 2 route, and I feel like they're playing in this like in between space. And I felt like that was kind of like a missed opportunity. I think you do have to choose one, whether you want to go completely Web 2 or you want to go completely crypto. I think that like playing in the middle there just doesn't really make sense in terms of a product.
Yeah, that's what it is. Does this feel like? And I mean, if you go even through some of the comments on some of these different posts, it's half the people are complaining, half the people just have these like kind of general thing, right? Like, I thought this garbage had been shut down. I don't think it's garbage, right? Some people say, and then you have other people who are kind of comparing it to other things. I think Tony, the founder, is pretty awesome. I was following him for a little while. Again, I tried to reach out to him multiple times to come on the show and never responded. So I know Toli still has his back, and the Solana kind of foundation was backing them for a while, but Yeah, we'll see what happens. And then last and surely not least, Hanon. I believe on Fridays they do their announcements. So I'm gonna kind of pull that up here. I was watching Danielle's live stream the other day, and it feels like we're, even the live streams feels like we're doing the same thing. Like I've started following a lot of his posts, and it's the same kind of things that we've been posting, where it's like, hey, look, hey, Anon did this, or oh, look, here's a gain over here, or like, which is kind of cool. I mean, that's the competition, especially on the internet. But they do have a pretty large backing. I don't know if they're like paying these influencers to do these, but it seems like a lot of girls are doing these like video tutorials for them, which is cool.
Definitely, for sure. They have a lot of girl partners. They kind of, which is a good avenue to go down. Just kind of capture every girl in crypto. Brander is Hanon, give updates on Hanon. One of the cool things that's obviously you can't even buy, everyone wants, but I mean, Agent Hustle has some of the most organic traction out of any of the DeFi AI agents by far. The two leading kind of organic market penetration is definitely Banker and Agent Hustle. So no paid marketing for Agent Hustle, all completely organic. Great to see so many good wins on the timeline and people just excited to talk about the product. So as product builders, the number one thing that you can ask is that, organic users like to talk about the product, and Agent Hustle seems to have hit that pretty strongly.
Very strongly. See more people coming in day by day. Maybe it's because it's undervalued, the token itself. With Hanon, right? One of the questions was, are they moving too fast to where you have so many updates that it's hard for people to really keep up and try to figure out what's kind of the new use case or not? Maybe it's more towards their kind of advanced users who move fast and break things essentially, or they need to go in and out of these transactions quite quickly. But they definitely have a community there. They also went this route, right, where it's multiple AI agents. They have like Gemma on the platform, which is kind of their analysis and research. Then they have Hanon, which is kind of the swap one. I think they did introduce a third one recently, if I can remember correctly. But they are moving quite fast. So they recently integrated bubble maps. I believe they have some sort of swap tool. They have this recent thing that I was showing on here. They integrated, looks like Telegram network and automation. So they're really doing this like capture of bridging assets across to then kind of do different types of things. They've got the aggregator and such. How many people are actually using that stuff? I don't know, to be honest. Oh, and one final thing with dBridge, they have something called type to snipe, which is the future UX, which I saw Relay Protocol actually, which is the other product from Reservoir, who recently announced that they were scrapping their NFT tooling, which Emblem Markets is built on, where you can actually type above this kind of swap tool or the bridge tool to kind of do different types of things, which is kind of interesting. So even what this type to snipe thing is, I'm reading through it and I actually still can't figure out what the hell it is. Just the new DeFi UX, I guess. And last but certainly not least, Agent Hustle, which we talk about consistently. Oh. There's the man, dude. We're now over 6,200 followers. It was literally, I think we've put up 300 or 400 followers in the last week.
Everything's all organic all the time. There's no fluff numbers with Agent Hustle or Emblem Vault or anything like that. Obviously, we build in public every single day. Super just transparent across the board on every single thing that we do, more than anyone else in the industry. So might seem like small achievements, but to do everything day by day completely organic is really important to us, and I think it's makes everything much more meaningful.
Yep, absolutely. So over the weekend we launched a bunch of features, order limits, which you can now do, dollar cost averaging, and deploy pump fund tokens, which has been pretty fun, to say the least. I don't think any of these have really taken off so far yet. I use the order limits a lot more. Actually, the stream we did yesterday with Stock Unlocked, we had Agent Hustle find a token which was called Cuck. And then I had him place a order limit 15% below the market price. And it literally hit the order and went up over 100%, literally on stream within like, what was that, 15 minutes or something like that? So he does well. I think to me, that's kind of the win. Analyzing, finding tokens, buying tokens. Once we get the selling portion to that, I think it's game over. I think at that point, it's you're gonna have this like the devout community who's been waiting for this. We'll be using the sell feature, and everyone's just gonna be clipping 10, 20% wins consistently, and then eventually everything will get out, or the news will get out, and then people will probably start rushing to it. Saw Soul Maverick has been going on this crazy agent hustle.
Yeah, he's been binging for sure.
Binge, dude. He's probably one of the guys who's been running up the cost. 11, 12 trades that he's taken recently. Just kind of using them. Like, these are the type of things that we want for the community, right? It's just people who are coming in and just using agent hustle just consistently over and over, talking about their strategies. That's the same one I saw yesterday. Was a new one with Baratoshi. Let me see if I could find this. He hit 2 winning trades on a single token from Agent Hustle. On the TNN token, he hit a 70% win and then a 20% win. Both of the strategies were 55 minutes, it looks like, or 20 minutes and 65-minute trade. So people are getting really good at this. And then I also want to pull up one other thing, is that we grew 100 holders over the weekend. I think there was a few traders I saw that were talking about Agent Hustle. People have really liked the growth and kind of just the product when they use it. And then also have to give a shout out to Paysman, who I think I said it right. Paysman, I think is it P-E-Z-H man. Actually, we have a chat with I have a private chat with him now, but he built out the Hustle library. So Agent Hustle prompt library.io for users to submit prompts. We're trying to figure out different ways on how we can integrate this into the platform and kind of build some cool stuff. He did add this button today called the Lucky Dip, which randomizes the prompts to copy. This is something we've been talking about, right, for kind of a long time already. So he's already building this. I saw somebody had asked, I'll probably post about this today. I saw a few people kind of ask him about adding that feature. People want their gamification. Oh, here it is actually. So added the Lucky Dip button. It copies random prompt to users and shows the details. So pretty cool. I'll probably post about that in a little bit. But we added a bunch of other UX features, which kind of are just running in the background. And now we're actually working on the copy trader, which is now directionally in the right path for automated trading.
Yes, sir. I mean, just building him out day by day. Adam always says this is the worst he'll ever be. I think that's like a very true and like just like fire statement. This is the worst that he's ever going to be, but he's super performant. People are having fun with him. They're finding wins in this kind of low volatility, slow market. And so, like you were saying last night, when the market does kind of turn, more volatility and more liquidity comes into the market, he's obviously probably going to be doing even better because, with more tokens moving, he has a higher chance of hitting a higher win rate rather than a slow market where there's like 2 or 3 tokens that are even worth taking a look at. So just in these slow times, he's able to kind of really enhance the user experience. And then when the market picks up even better, I'm confident that he'll be even stronger in those market environments.
And that's when we time to show out and have a lot of fun. Tonight, I'm actually going to be doing a stream with Bunsy because Adam's on vacation. So we me and Buns and Chris, if you want to join, if you're not doing anything, come hang out with me and Buns. We're going to do a live stream. Buns has been wanting to try him out and to have some fun. So, we'll get a good old mullet session going.
Sweet.
And have a good old time to continue to test. This will be the first time we could test him with order limits and stuff and deploying tokens, although we did do that yesterday. So
dope. If you haven't used agenthustle.ai, hop on the platform and just ask them some questions. Just get used to using an AI terminal chat box to interface with crypto, because that's the way that most of the world is going to be onboarded to crypto. So if you're not familiar with how the industry is moving and which direction it's going into, you're going to be at a disadvantage. So even if you're not a huge AI fan or someone who isn't really into trying new products or something like that, you really just kind of need to get up to speed, toy around with it a little bit. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. You have to deposit 1 SOL to activate the platform, but after that, you can withdraw the 1 SOL. So crypto is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be experimental. It's supposed to be, just entertaining, to be at the forefront of all of this innovation. And so we just highly encourage people to try the platform. Everyone says all the time they want these cool products. Where are the great products of crypto? Well, here's one staring at you in the face. Just give it a try. It's catching a lot of traction. It's in its earliest days. And after years and years and years in crypto, I think Jake can agree that sometimes your biggest wins mostly come from just being early and being in the right place and trying new things. Like, the market really rewards you for trying new things. And I think that this is another opportunity to do just that, and probably see some pretty solid upside if you stick around over the next couple months.
Yeah. I mean, the market's going to make this turn. Bitcoin's at 90K. Ethereum hit 1700. Solana's back up to 140. I mean, I saw this morning from a macro scale that Trump said that they agreed to trade deal with India. I think that's why the market shot up a little bit. They're about to finish a trade deal with Japan, it sounds like. I mean, you get 3 to 5 of these like major countries in place. This is what's holding the market down, is this tariff situation. Once you get a handful of these down, then I think the market starts to pick back up. It's not going to say like it's over, probably until they figure out the China one, but these strong senses or strong signs of that this thing's going to be figured out is what the market's waiting for.
So. And markets are forward looking, right? So can you spook the market more with tariff fears at this point in time? Probably not. Nothing. What is a postponed trade deal going to do at this time? It's not really going to move the market very much, but securing more and more trade deals is going to move the market quite a bit. So it's really hard to kind of look on the horizon and find more bad news than what we just went through over the past month or 2 months and a half. The dramatic radical change that just occurred caught a lot of people off sides, but it's very hard to do that consecutively. There's not a lot that they can do to surprise the market to the downside. It's pricing in worst case scenario. It's pricing in higher inflation due to tariffs. It's pricing in maybe massive recession. So this is kind of just like, we've been talking about it for a month while it was ongoing, that it was kind of peak fear. And it seems like that was probably peak fear. So that's where we're at.
Bottom was in, man. Bottom was in. Solana hit 2 digits. I was surprised that Ethereum didn't hit 3 digits. I think that's what everyone was calling for. Did not happen. I think Solana, what was the low? Like 90 or 80?
Probably. Again, these have to be like adjusted for inflation. Like 3-digit Ethereum in 2025. It's like $80 Ethereum in like 2017. You know what I mean? It's just like some of these Ethereum is an insane value. If you think that any of this has any longevity, buying Ethereum at $1,500 or $1,400 is like, in my opinion, that's like free money. It's hard not to just buy everything in sight. So
yeah, I feel that, man. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We'll be back tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, or if you want to tune in on the live stream, we'll be playing around with Agent Hustle later, testing out his token deployments, order limits, and just having some fun on screen. Until then, everyone have a good and safe Tuesday. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys later.
Later.